Two headlines this morning, and of course it might be exactly what the Labour Party and Labour supporters want to see when the front pages of the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail spell out in such stark terms what's planned. Corbyn and comrades reveal plot to hammer middle class with tax raids, says the Telegraph. Tax war on middle class, says the Mail. What lies behind it? Well, today Labour will unveil plans for a redistribution of wealth with a series of tax raids on the middle classes and a renewed attack on British business. John McDonnell will address Labour's conference in Brighton and set out an economic plan that will include a sharp rise in income tax, scrapping the Conservative inheritance tax reforms, and increasing corporation tax. He'll also set out radical plans to overhaul the Bank of England in a policy that Mark Carney, the governor, has warned could damage the economy and harm the elderly and the poorest in society. Mr McDonnell is to say a new politics needs a new economics, and a Jeremy Corbyn-led government will invest to grow the economy and for the proceeds of that growth to be shared more equally among all sections, regions and nations of our country. And he's made it clear he supports a Robin Hood tax on all bank transactions. What does that mean for the economy? What does it mean for you and me? Let's speak with Jonathan Davis, who's an economist and wealth manager, who joins me now. Can we start perhaps with the last of those, Mr Davis, the idea of a Robin Hood tax, or I think it's also known as a Tobin tax. What would that mean for the city, potentially? Good morning.
Good morning. It just means that every financial transaction, and of course there are literally billions every single day, there'd be a tiny amount of tax on it. That will raise vast amounts of money, no question. Will it actually affect the city as much as the city suggests? Actually, I don't think it will. What it will do is affect the high-frequency traders, which basically run massive computers who send in 100 trades in a millisecond. These guys will be hammered, and actually they are affecting the normal business practices of the city. So, as strange as it may seem, that's not actually a bad thing.
So you're broadly in support of that?
Broadly, strange as it may seem.
Yes. As an economist and wealth manager, Mr Davis, as and when you listen to or read up on what Mr McDonnell says later today, what will you be looking for and what might panic you or your clients?
Well, I'm generally panicked that, in essence, these guys want to take us back to the 1970s. That's pretty obvious. It's been said 100 times in the media already, and it's true.
In what way is it true? How can you point to it being a return to...
Well, they want to increase the power of the trades unions. They want to increase taxes on the middle classes. They want to hammer the rich. And they want to nationalise everything left, right and centre. Well, anyone who lived through the 1970s knows that that is an extraordinarily bad move to make. And unfortunately, that's what they want to do to us. I would suggest, however, that the crony capitalism that we have right now also is not a particularly good place to be. Ultimately, crony socialism, crony capitalism, they're two sides of the same coin. It helps the cronies to the expense of everyone else. But I definitely do not want to go back to the 1970s because, in essence, that's taking us towards Venezuela. And Venezuela is about the worst economy in the democratic world, in the world right now, where, to give an example, you can't even buy a toilet roll because literally they've run out. That is the logical and result of socialism.
Some people might say you're perhaps running away with yourself a little bit, suggesting that Mr Corbyn and his chums are going to take us where you can't buy toilet tissue, Mr Davis.
Well, they didn't forecast that kind of thing would happen in Venezuela. In Venezuela, the officials accept that they have 100% inflation. That means goods and services are doubling in price every year. Unofficially, in other words, when you take the bureaucrats out, actually inflation in Venezuela is about 600% per annum. That is the direct result of a planned economy, of socialism, and my goodness, the people there are in dire straits, and unfortunately, they voted these people in, and until they get a chance to vote them out, that's what's going to continue. And we must not allow us to go back to the 1970s or towards a planned economy.
And lastly, and it's early days, desperately early days, but from what you're hearing so far about Mr. McDonnell and his plans, how persuaded are you as to his economic competence?
Well, as it happens, these guys are not incompetent. I entirely disagree with their opinions, but they're not incompetent. That, I would suggest to you, is the most dangerous thing of all.
Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager, thank you for that. Let's